start the 12 steps of the alchemical process and 12 stages of alchemy related to the Zodiac. Aries is where we'll start, which is calcination. Calcination being a purifying fire, which can actually potentially break down matter into its form of ashes. It's a form of alchemy. We come to the symbology of the phoenix being birthed from its ashes, because the fire that descends from the supernal realms, or the higher realms, or you could say from the cerebrum, which is the top of the head, the higher mind, that is a reflecting the cardinal fire, the nature of fire, but in its cardinal form. And that fire in the ancient times was attributed to the fire that descends. In the Bible, we are led to a lot of passages that explain the fire that descended from heaven, or the burning bush. And we're led to understand the mysteries of the I Am, which is the motto of Aries. And that I Am is what calcinates or burns away the ego into ashes, so that the new being, as Jesus said, put away the old personality and put on the new. We have to first start with fire. You start with cardinal Aries from the top-down model, from Aries to Pisces at the feet, starting at the spring equinox. And the reason why in the zodiacal alchemical system we start there is because we're starting from raw spiritual energy and allowing it to descend into the earth, which is the physical body. And that fire is the initiation, which allows the process of transformation to occur. So this is the fiery stage where impurities are burned away. In physical alchemy, it involves heating a material to break it down into its purest form. Spiritually, it symbolizes confronting the ego and unhealthy attachments that hinder personal growth. It's an act of breaking down old identities and beliefs to start anew. So the Aries energy reflects this, and we could see this in the Bible, astrotheologically, in alchemy in the Bible, when the disciples all take up and stop what they're doing and drop of a dime to follow the Christ or Jesus into to the activity of whatever initiation that he was allowing them to enter into. We see the basically kind of the blind belief, or the ability to step into spiritual initiation on a whim. Well, what that basically means is you have to take the first step into the unknown. It's kind of above speculation or logical interpretation. It's accessing the higher mind, or the cerebrum, which sees above the duality of the logical interpretation of the world, and enters into that spiritual kind of entering the mind of a child, where the child will believe and to acknowledge the spiritual realities in a way that the logical brain gets in the way of. So Aries reflects this energy, bold initiative, action, that cardinal fire. The same type of behavior, as above, so below. This is the exact same type of behavior that the soul utilizes to manifest in its existence primordially. So before physical incarnation, the first stream of consciousness outside of coming from the unlimited would be that cardinal fire of Aries, that crystallization of the I Am, and that burning fire that descends into the watery realms of material existence, just like Alvin Boyd Kuhn mentions in the book Your Blood is the Red Sea. In this book, he expresses that the fire from the higher mind and from the higher spiritual realities descend into its negative spiritual counterpart, the physical realm, which is just the negative polarity of spirit. And when this fire descends into the water, it creates the vapor. The vapor being the Holy Ghost. You have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, or the Father, the Son, and the Mother. Whatever, this energy transmutation, this energy shift that creates that vaporous energy, which starts accumulating the astral body, the mental body, and fortifying it with form and personality and cognition. And this is why Aries' motto is I Am, because the first stage of awakening, the first stage of initiation is to realize you are not the body, but you are the I am that preceded the body, relating from the spark of the flame from the I am that preceded the even manifestation of the physical entities. So in calcination, we separate the fixed from the volatile, and we do that by self-observation, because the I am initiates and gives birth to the witness. We see that the lotus flower comes out of the navel of Vishnu, and then we see that this basically shows that there's the substratum of consciousness, and outside of the substratum creates a volatile cardinal fire output, which is the consciousness of I am, which is the verb, the word made flesh, the supreme I am. In the East, we'd say Krishna, or in the West, we'd say Christ or Christos. It's the supernal perfected awareness that's even higher, more supernal than the Adam Kadmon, which is the zodiacal will, starting from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, all the way to Pisces, the feet. So when we understand this from a Platonic standpoint, and understanding emanationism, and understanding how the consciousness distills itself and manifests itself, it has to go through subtle various transformations and transmutations to become to where we are now, which is individualized I ams, consciously aware within physical bodies. So the fire has now come into the water, created that sizzle, and created the vapor, which is the individual souls. You're coming from basically looking at it like a soul factory. You could say you at the beginning you were an essence, and going through that calcination period before the physical incarnation is what allowed you to become spirit souls descended into the material realm. Once you're in the material realm and entombed in flesh, you start your initiation again, starting at Aries. Aries calcination is the first moment that, in one esoteric term, because there's lots of variations of the meaning, it correlates to different parts of your life, it correlates to different parts of the seasons. But on one level, it's your first cognition of I am when you were little. So when you were a baby, when you were 3 or 4, sometimes younger, you have your first initial I am awareness. This is the first calcination period. Now, as you go on your journey of initiation, calcination comes again when you discover that I am in a conscious manner, understanding what that actually means. And we can relate that to the alchemical properties of the Bible. We understand Moses in the burning bush. He says, who sent you? It says, tell them I am sent you. Because I am is the dawn of consciousness, the dawn of awareness. It's 6 a.m. dawn. When the sun comes up at 6 a.m., that's cardinal fire Aries. That's equivalent to spring, in the same way sunset's equivalent to fall. So that initial calcination energy of Aries is what we need, the initial spark. The same spark we experience at 6 a.m. in the morning. Right? Allows the rooster to even crows at the energies that it fills and picks up on in the vibrations. Aries is that electrical fire that is increased in the cerebral spinal system when the fire of Kundalini is ascending the spine. So calcination is a thermal process that involves heating a solid substance to a high temperature without melting it. The goal of calcination is to alter the chemical or physical properties of the substance. So within you, the I am, or the cardinal Aries, or the sun at dawn at 6 a.m. is the internal sun within you that's creating the I am consciousness that's allowing the body to heating the body subtly without melting it. Throughout your whole life and throughout your whole life of experiences, you're tempering the blade, the sword of Mars. Mars is the warrior. We know that Aries and Mars, their affiliation being the warrior element within us. It's the sword. And that sword that we see in mythologies, or Perseus slaying Medusa, or any type of King Arthur, we understand that that sword is the central spinal column, that the fire has to rise. So the flaming sword is what the initiate is trying to create in his crucible, which is a symbol of the word, sword and word, master's word, the SWORD. The sword is the word because the sword is tempered in the melting pot of the physical body. And once the sword is withdrawn from the stone, it becomes an individualized, immortal being. So we have to go through this process of awakening the consciousness of Aries within us and actually coming to a full acknowledgement of the I am within. And this is how we become aware of the automated instinctual energies and begin to transmute them through this higher awareness. So we meditate on some of the symbols of calcination Aries. It basically takes us to understanding the I am being the initiator, which is the first spark of the divine entering into matter. We have access to that first spark of divine entering into matter when we silence our mind, silence our thoughts, enter into an awareness of the I am consciousness. Now, on my channel, on my YouTube channel, I've talked a lot about an ancient technique from the Taoist tradition called turning the light around. Turning the light around is the secret of the golden blossom. And what it is it actually allows you to activate this internal I am awareness to its highest potential, allowing you to surpass and supersede all of the redundant automated tendencies of the lower mind or the medulla oblongata. So in calcination, are the main goal. Calcination, one of the 12 vital processes which transforms a substance. And it's two kinds of calcination. There is actual and potential. Actual calcination is that brought about by actual fire. And the one that we're talking about is actually brought about from an inner subtle fire or an astral fire. So it's not necessarily actual physical heat that we are talking about when we're talking about the inner fire that's evaporating the waters of the soul to create a vaporous astral entity. We're actually describing a process of the inner astral fires, which are cooking heat on a psychic level, on the level of your psyche, because all of the elements have psychological counterparts. So we talk about earth, water, air, and fire. We can understand that these are actually referring to their psychological elemental counterparts. Water being the emotions, fire being the impulse, earth being not only the physical body, but also the crude mind, and then wind being related to thoughts. So you have to understand how to put all these elements into place and to reduce the ego to ashes, so that out of the ashes, as Jesus said, to take off the personality and put it to the side and put on the new. In order to do that, you have to purify by fire. And that subtle fire is awakened by turning the lens around. When we turn the light around, I could kind of, in the meditative strategy, we can see that we take the awareness that's going projected to our external reality, and we focus that, and we turn the lens around into our central nervous system. This is what Yogananda taught. Yogananda taught that you place your awareness where your spinal column is. It centers you, because that's the tree of life. That's Mount Meru. That's the North Pole. That's the center of your physical being, is where the consciousness is being transmitted to. So even when you practice and understand exfoliated breathing or sponge breathing, or what others would term pore breathing, is when instead of just breathing through your nostrils and your mouth, you're breathing from 360-degree radius within into your spine, while placing the spotlight of attention onto your central nervous system and spine, while at the same time consciously aware of the I am principle. And what this is going to do is this is going to crystallize this form of higher consciousness within your mind, so that your day-to-day activities, instead of being hayward, actually come into direct control of the higher self. That's a lot of things that people don't understand. Is actually in the first part of initiation, you have to surrender the lower mind, or surrender the bull. Moses, says, stop worshiping the golden calf, the bull of materialism, and he blows the ram's horn, which symbolizes the calcination process. So we have to understand that we have to go through the fires and trials of initiation in the beginning, so that the higher mind can get a substantial foot upon the lower mind, so that you have enough energy to work with. Because a lot of the times we feel like we're advancing so quickly, but at the same time, if we haven't gone through the first purifying fire of calcination, if we haven't reduced the ego to ashes, and we haven't started to actually create the new self, we haven't begun initiation in its full extent. We may have started first initiation, but haven't fully grasped the potential of it. Because yes, firstly, it is just acknowledging you are a soul inside of a body. You're not actually the physical body. You can see the physical body as a spiritual dimension, the negative polarity of the spirituality, but also coming to the conclusion that, okay, is the lower mind fully surrendered to Aries, the cerebrum? Is it, or are we still under control of some of the lower faucets of our being? So when you're first beginning and you're doing the initial practices of the I am awareness, and you're understanding how to turn the light around, the ancient Taoist practice of awakening the golden flower, then you have to learn how to turn your spotlight of attention inward and how to create light within. And the 12 stages of the alchemical process are signifying factors of the process of meditation as well. That's why you may see images of the peacock, which is various colors or various different colors and various different ideas in the alchemical imagery, because they actually correspond to meditative states of awareness that take place within you. When you go through the seven, because we have to understand that there's 12 stages of the alchemical process, but there's 7 steps to those 12 stages. Then those 12 stages are from Aries to Pisces. You have to go through the 7 planets as well. And that's for the next lesson. As we get through the 12 stages, we'll talk about how the 7 steps equal that consciousness. Where, for an example, when you first begin to meditate, all you see is a blank screen. You just see darkness. You're just staring into the void. This is a very first part of meditation. But as you turn on the light within, and you turn your awareness within yourself, and you're conserving energy, and you're placing your consciousness within the I am of Aries, then that light, the darkness is no more. Just like in the Bible it says, upon the face of the waters, uh, God spoke, and then there was light, and let there be light, and then there was light. So that light that you see is the phosphoric, self-illuminated light that allows us as individuals to be self-aware. This is the light that helps us increase our ability to be self-conscious, self-reflective beings, and allow us to see things from a different perspective than the animal kingdom. This is the manna from heaven. This is the vril of the Nordics. This is the chi of the Taoists. This is the Holy Spirit of the Christians. This is the fire of the Pentecostals. This is the Kundalini of the yogis. This is the fire that Moses on his staff raised the serpents on the staff. And we know that the whole story of Moses is a spiff on the calcination process with all of the fire energy symbolism, and the I am motto, burning bush, and the ram's horn. We understand that even the characteristics of the I am and the consciousness of Aries also finds its way into the other biblical narratives and characters as well. Even though John the Baptist symbolizes Aquarius, the man with the pitcher of water, bringing forth knowledge and telling us that he's unworthy to buckle his sandal, a Pisces reference, um, he's displaying the Aries energy, because that chapter follows an energy of initiation of Aries, and it goes through. So sometimes all the characters of the Bible, in the astrotheological interpretation, they also kind of play part with it. Each one of the disciples played a part in the Aries energy, because they all took up from what they were doing. They all dropped what they were doing and followed Jesus, even though they didn't fully know exactly what he was about. But they followed their intuition. And that's where we understand that the first step of alchemy, and the main goal of calcination, and the main goal of transmuting the fire of Aries, is to understand and realize our intuition and our intuitive faculty. That's when we really step into initiation of calcination, is when we finally access our inner intuition, which then allows us to be guided into the next stages of the alchemical process. So Aries, symbolizing the infant of the zodiac or the baby of the zodiac or the I am awareness, also symbolizes that first spark of I am awareness descending into physical matter, deciding to descend into its own reflection, deciding to descend as the full tarot card. to finally go down into the depths of the earth and to form an individuality. And that's why the first alchemical process formulates the I am consciousness, and then I am changes into Taurus, which is coagulation. Coagulation being the second stage of the alchemical process related to I have, because primordially, when the soul first dawned its consciousness of um, I am, the second energy transmutation of consciousness was I have. I have thoughts. That's leading into Gemini. I think. We go from I am to I have to I think. And these are the same fundamental steps that we take here in the physical realm as we incarnate. Our physical bodies are incubators or wombs for individual conscious awareness. And as Thomas H. Burgoyne taught in the Light of Egypt, the souls descend and split into Adam and Eve, and descend the seven spheres, descend the seven planets into the physical realm, and experience the plane of inertia, which is the field or plane of existence that we reside on as conscious witness observers. And that I am within us takes us over the boat of Maya, over the boat of illusion, and is our Noah's Ark. And the I am is the Noah's Ark of that story. In the similar way, the burning bush, is the what interpreted and gave the mysteries to Moses, the ram, right? He has the ram horns. And Moses blows the ram horn and says to stop worshiping the golden calf, which is showing the transition from the age from Taurus to Aries back to Pisces, as now we're being as an Aquarius. So a lot of the times it says, that seems a little backwards. We're starting at Aries, going Taurus, Gemini, all the way to Pisces. But at the same time, there's another story rift going on where it's kind of going backwards. So there's this backwards and forward movement throughout the narrative. On one end, it's this way coming that way. We have, John the Baptist preparing the way for Aries. And on the other, we have to remember that when we're looking at it from the age perspective, it appears to be going back. But essentially, in our life journey, this cyclical repetition is completed by the end of our life. But we have miniature alchemical transmutations throughout our whole life, throughout the whole 12 seasons. Especially in air, in the springtime, calcination starts, and coagulation, and then fixation, and then you go through all these different transmutations of the psyche. The issue is since a lot of people are not taught the holy science, they're not aware of these internal processes, and they're not understanding why they're feeling this energy of impulse, or an energy of extravagance, or an energy of wonder, or an energy of contemplation. Everyone seems to kind of vibe on the same rhythm throughout the seasons, and the ancients were smart enough to understand and observe, and uh, to counter correlate basically what everyone behavior science. Astrology was the first original behavioral science, basically real behavioral science, and understanding that these behaviors and moods, and in the East they call it spiritual moods. Every day is a new feeling, every day is a new spiritual mood. And in the spring, I hope this lecture will help us to basically prepare for the spring equinox and understand the power of Aries, the I am, the Lamb of God, takes away the sins of the world, and see that through a symbolic lens, and see how that fire within us descends from the higher realm on a daily basis and helps us purify ourselves and make better decisions to help others and to be there for our families. And it's the fire that allows us to stand up for things that are right. We have to learn to transmute the anger of Mars and understand to take our petty anger and turn it into righteous anger. Right? In calcination, we have to dissolve the ego to ashes. But to work with the power of Mars, we temper the blade with Mars, and we temper that just like Marsilio Ficino said in what was it, Astro Psychology. There's a book by Marsilio Ficino. It's a commentary, but it's Astro Psychology, and basically talks about the psychology of the planets and how we can utilize the planets to temper the opposite planet. So Mars, we have to transmute the Mars with Venus, beauty. How do we do that? Well, we have to take all that aggregated energy, just like in the mythologies. The Prince Charming saves the princess from the dragon. Mars has to save Venus. You can't fall into sensuality. You have to save yourself from falling into sensuality. But at the same time, you have to temper the fire with it, with beauty. You have to learn how to find beauty in your life as Marsilio Ficino said, that you can ascend through beauty. And when we're talking about Aries and calcination, we have to look at its opposite correspondence of Venus and Mars and Venus, and see that we have to temper Mars with Venus, and basically save our soul from the dragon, which is the ego. So that's why all the heroic stories and tales of the sword, the sword and the shield, are all solar references, are all calcination references, and are all there to help us understand the unlimited awareness. Because once we understand and tap into the I am awareness, we can't be fooled into atheism, we can't be fooled into nihilism, we can't be fooled into harming others, we can't be fooled into harming ourselves. That's why the main goal is to take away the I am consciousness, especially through in this age of Aquarius, through the extreme digitization, the extreme automation, and the extreme extremities that we're seeing in the Aquarian age, trying to dim our I am consciousness. Because what does it mean? We take it for granted, right? What does it exactly mean to be without the I am? Well, you become an automaton, an autonomous being, and you live without awareness, and you live fully like you're in a dream. You're not even aware what you're doing from day to day. You're just going about your day, and it's not in a good way of like supreme somatic state. It's more of a robotic state, right? There's a difference from somatic, being in the Tao, being in the flow, acting and perceiving from a higher consciousness. That is very different from an atomic state, being atomic, being automatic, or automated, right? So the first stage of initiation pulls you from a deep slumber of automation of being an automaton, or robotic human nature, and kind of wakes you up from that robotic state, and you realize the soul. And realizing the soul, you're blessed with self-realization, illumination. Okay, so the first part of initiation is illumination, the dawning of the I am consciousness, when the cerebrum lights up. And deep dark meditation now becomes light. Right, there's now light within your meditation. It's no longer dim. Maybe a dim light, but you see the fire. Right, so which is symbolic of the burning bush. You see the side of the brain looks like a burning bush. If you cut it in half, the fire of the kundalini stretches up into the ventricles. It would light up just like a burning bush. Just for a side note. But essentially, once this happens and this awareness dawns, then you're no longer an automaton. You're aware of who you are. You're aware of where you came from, and then you take your step, and that is self-illumination. Now, everyone, that's very common. It's just the first step of the alchemical process. So a lot of people can experience that. And then the more fortified version is a fixed version of that, which was met in Leo, the fixed fire of Leo, which is the self-illumination. And self-illumination is self-realization, sorry, to realize the inner will, that your will is the same will as the Father in heaven. It's not do what thou wilt, like necessarily do whatever you want. It's to do like what Jesus says, do thy will be done as on earth as it is in heaven, meaning that the higher forces, the higher triad of the higher part of the tree of life, Kether, Chokman, Bana, or crown, love, and wisdom, Father, wisdom, Mother, love, right? That these are now spun into activity. That your pineal gland and your pituitary gland and your optic thalamus are all now vibrating and actually functioning. And then you're developing that 13th cranial nerve through the process of transmutation to the point where, okay, now you're actually fixed self-realization. So we'll get to that in the later part of the alchemical process. That's in